Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Extension Development Studies, SOEDS, Diploma Postgraduate Diploma Programs, Postgraduate Diploma in Animal Welfare, PGDAW, MAW 002 Animal Welfare Issues, Block-1 Animal Welfare Issues in Dairy Animals, Unit-1 Dairy Animals, 1.1 Learning Outcomes, A. Knowledge and Understanding. After studying this unit, you will be able to understand the meaning and purpose of dairy animals. Explain the contribution of dairy animals to the national economy. B. Practical and professional skills. After studying this unit, you will be able to describe different dairy production systems and general animal welfare issues associated with them. 1.2 Introduction. Dear learner, in MAW 001 you were introduced to the concept of animal welfare science that can be applied to all animal species, sometimes preceded by farm or companion, or working or performing or zoo or lab animals. In general, however, we are concerned about the welfare of animals that are managed in some way by humans and where we have particular responsibility for their welfare and protection. Initially, utmost concern about animal welfare has been given to farm animals. Over the period, welfare issues pertaining to other animals managed by humans have also received the attention. Keeping all this in view, the PGDAW program has covered welfare issues and standards of all managed animals comprehensively. Box 1.1. Box 1.1 PG Diploma in Animal Welfare PGDAW. In PGDAW program, you will learn about animal welfare science, ethics, and standards which can be applied to all managed animals like 1. Dairy animals, large ruminants, cattle and buffaloes. 2. Small ruminants, sheep and goats. 3. Pigs. 4. Poultry. 5. Working animals. 6. Performing animals. 7. Pet animals. 8. Zoo animals. 9. Lab animals. The welfare issues pertaining to different managed animals are discussed in the course MAW 002. This unit introduces you to the dairy animals, their role in milk production, different dairy husbandry systems and general animal welfare. Concerning different dairy production systems. In the next unit, specific welfare issues pertaining to dairy animals are discussed. 1.3 Farm animals. Farm animals are domesticated animals that are reared in the farm, which also include dairy animals. You may be aware that India's farm animal sector is one of the largest in the world with 56.7% of world's buffaloes, 12.5% cattle, 20.4% small ruminants, 2.4% camel, 1.4% equine, 1.5% pigs, and 3.1% poultry. As per the latest livestock census, India had nearly 536 million livestock in 2019, an increase of 4.63%, and 851.81 million poultry, an increase of 16.8% over the previous census of 2012. Table 1.1. Table 1.1. India's livestock population 2019 in million. The livestock sector grew at an annual rate of 5.3% during 1980s, 3.9% during 1990s, and 3.6% during 2000s. Despite deceleration, growth in the livestock sector remained about 1.5 times more than the crop sector, which implies its critical role in cushioning agricultural growth. The overall contribution of the livestock sector to India's gross domestic product (GDP) is nearly 4.11%, which is about 21.58% of the agricultural GDP. This indicates that livestock sector is emerging as an engine of growth in the agricultural sector. However, we must acknowledge that these growth rates are at the cost of welfare of farm animals, as the emphasis over the years has been on improving productivity through industrialized animal production, especially in the urban and peri-urban areas. Therefore, one of the biggest challenge is improving farm animal welfare following OIE's global standards. It is to be noted that India obtained rank E in farm animal welfare within 7-letter bands ranging from A, the highest welfare, to G, the lowest welfare, in the ranking of Animal Protection Index, Animal Protection Index 2020. Please refer the Unit-1 Ranking of India in Animal Protection in MAW 004 for more details. 1.4 Dairy Animals. 1.4.1 Meaning of dairy animals. Dairy animals are the animals bred for the ability to produce large quantities of milk from which dairy products are made. The important dairy animals can be broadly classified under the following 2 categories: common dairy animals, O cattle, O buffalo, O goat, O sheep, O camel; less common dairy animals, O yak, O mithun, O horse, O reindeer, O donkey. The number and composition of dairy animal herds differ considerably among regions and countries based on the following factors: FAO, GDP and IFCN 2020, feed and fodder, water, climate, demand, food habits, socioeconomic characteristics of farmers' people, example, under smallholder production systems. Poor households keep 1 or 2 cattle or buffaloes or few sheep and goats depending on the available resources. Globally, around 150 million households are engaged in dairy farming with a production of approximately 860 million tons of milk in 2019. Cattle, buffaloes, goats, sheep and camels contribute the majority of the global milk production. Box 1.2. Box 1.2 Milk production by dairy animal species. Global milk production by species: O cattle 81%, O buffaloes 15%, O goats 2%, O sheep 1%, O camels 0.5%, O equines, yaks and mithuns 0.5%. 1/3 RD of milk production in developing countries comes from buffaloes, goats, camels and sheep. In developed countries, most of the milk is produced by cattle. Cattle produce about 3/4 of milk in sub-Saharan Africa, about 60% in Asia and nearly all the milk produced in Latin America. The cattle farming can be seen worldwide in different climatic conditions. However, farming of other dairy animals is region-specific, which is influenced by adverse environments. Example, sheep, goats and camels are found more in semi-arid and arid regions, buffaloes in wet tropical regions, yaks and mithuns in high mountainous areas. 1.4.2 Population of cattle and buffaloes in India. India had 192.49 million cattle population as per 2019 livestock census, which accounts for 36% of total farm animals in the country. The female cattle number was 145.12 million, an increase of 18% over the 2012 census, and the number of male cattle, on the other hand, dropped to 47.4 million, a decrease of 31% over the 2012 census. The male-to-female cattle ratio dropped to 1:3 in 2019 from 1:1.8 in the 2012 census. The indigenous cattle population decreased by 6% and crossbred cattle increased by 26.9% in 2019 census as compared to 2012 census. India had 109.85 million buffalo population in 2019 as compared to 108.70 million in 2012. The buffaloes account for 20.45% of total farm animals in the country. Buffaloes have longer productive life than cattle, provide calves and milk until they are up to 20 years of age compared to crossbreeds. The indigenous breeds are well adapted to local conditions like temperature, available feed and endemic diseases, but have low production. Examples of indigenous cattle are Sahiwal, Red Sindhi, Tharparkar Kankaraj, Gir and Ongole. The common crossbred cattle are Jersey and Holstein Friesian. Examples of prominent buffalo breeds are Murrah, Neeravi, Surti, Jafrabadi and Mehsana. Cattle and buffaloes are the important dairy animals in India. Therefore, the dairy production systems and welfare issues of these two dairy animals are discussed in the following sections and also in the next unit. 1.5 Dairy production systems. Dairy production systems are defined as all commercial production systems where the purpose of the operation includes some or all of the breeding, rearing and management of dairy animals intended for production of milk, OIE. 2019. As per FAO statistics, India has around 75 million dairy farms and the majority of them have less than 10 dairy animals, cattle and buffaloes. Around 80% of milk produced in these small-scale dairy farms comes from one of the three production systems. Box 1.3. Box 1.3 Dairy production systems in India. Extensive system, e.g. pastoral agropastoral dairying, characterized by low inputs and low outputs. Dairying is land-based and milk is often the most important survival product associated with cropping pattern. Nomadic pastoralists practice little or no agriculture and move the dairy animals in search of grazing grounds and water. Semi-extensive or semi-intensive system, e.g. rural smallholder dairying operates on medium inputs and medium outputs. Dairy animals are part of a mixed farming system. Manure is used for crop production. Dairy animals are fed on grass, crop residues and cultivated fodder. Supplementary feeding is practiced only when feasible. Intensive system, e.g. peri-urban dairying, operates on high inputs and high outputs philosophy. Landless dairying system close to market areas. Animals are completely stall-fed. Milk production is based on purchased feed and fodder and other inputs, characterized by problems of feed supply and waste disposal. Out of 302.34 million dairy animals in India, 192.49 million cattle and 109.85 million buffaloes, approximately 70%, 211 millions, are reared in extensive and semi-extensive systems and remaining 30%, 91 million, are reared under intensive systems in urban peri-urban areas. Among the three production systems, the semi-intensive system is more welfare-friendly for dairy animals, followed by the extensive system. In the intensive production systems, the animals are fully dependent on external inputs and the 5 freedoms of optimum animal welfare are compromised. In addition, the routine farm management practices also contribute adversely to the welfare of dairy animals reared in all the three production systems. From a scientific viewpoint, dairy animal welfare in the above three production systems fall into three main areas as described below. 1. Biological functioning. 2. Naturalness. 3. Feelings and emotions. Let us discuss them briefly as applicable to dairy animals in different production systems. 1.5.1 Biological functioning. Biological functioning is the ability of dairy animal to cope with its environment in the three production systems and the biological responses that the animal may need to make to continue to be able to function, or the biological impact when the animal is unable to cope. This view of dairy animal welfare considers dairy animals' hormonal and physiological responses linked to production, reproduction, and health. Largely, it deals with how dairy animals respond to stressors in daily life. Welfare declines when the animal's responses are no longer sufficient or inadequate. Over a period of time, the dairy animals become more susceptible to diseases, reduced growth, and poor reproductive ability. Example, housing and lighting are the major welfare issues for dairy animals in urban peri-urban areas. As land availability is less, more animals are confined in crowded environment with poor ventilation, high humidity, inadequate line space, hard and wet floors. These conditions affect biological functioning of dairy animals and create constant stress over 2 to 3 lactations and increase the conditions like lameness, infertility, risk and spread of infections like mastitis. Ultimately, these animals are culled or replaced after 3 to 4 lactation cycles. 1.5 to naturalness. The naturalness component suggests that good welfare depends on the dairy animal being able to live a natural life and to be able to express its evolved behavior patterns. In naturalness concept of welfare, it can be hard to determine precisely what is natural in the animal's behavior and what constitutes a natural environment for dairy animals. Example, the extensive system followed by semi-extensive system of dairy farming is close to natural life of dairy animals compared to intensive system. Naturalness concept suggests we should not infringe the dairy animal's physical wholeness, such as performing procedures like disbudding, dehorning or tail docking, etc., and that we should create conditions where the animal has a life that accords with their species-specific capacities and adaptation patterns. 1.5.3 Feelings and emotions. Feelings and emotions concept suggests that dairy animals are sentient and experience pain, fear, distress, pleasure, etc., which play a central role in the determination of welfare. They largely overlap, but the feelings approach is probably closest to the public perception of animal welfare. There are several animal welfare issues in housing, feeding, breeding and health care of dairy animals, which are painful and cause stress. In summary, the biological functioning is about measuring the responses of a dairy animal to infer how well it is coping with the dairy production system environment. The naturalness is about the match between the production systems, environments in which the animal is being reared compared to the environment in which the species was evolved. The feelings are primarily focused on what dairy animals are experiencing in the production system. Please refer MAW 001, Unit 2 on Scientific Understanding of Animal Welfare for detailed discussion on the above 3 issues. 1.6 General Animal Welfare Issues. India is the world's largest milk producer with 22% of global production, followed by the USA, China, Pakistan and Brazil. By more number of animals, rather than a rise in productivity per head, India has increased its share in global milk production. General welfare of millions of dairy animals means how they are coping with the conditions in different farming husbandry systems: healthy, comfortable, well-nourished, safe, able to express normal behavior and free from pain, fear and distress. OIE 2008. The general constraints faced by dairy animals in India with related implications to animal welfare are unfavorable climates, hot and or humid, freedom from distress, thermal and physical discomfort, low-quality feed. Resources, freedom from hunger, thirst and malnutrition, diseases and limited access to services, freedom from pain, injury and disease, low genetic potential for milk production and resultant crossbreeding, ethical breeding, dairy farm management practices, freedom from pain, distress and expression of normal behavior, the crossbred animals give more milk, but need improved production, management, feeding, housing and veterinary care. Most milk is produced by small-scale indigenous crossbred cattle and buffaloes under extensive or semi-extensive production systems. The human-animal bonding is positive, economics are secondary and welfare concerns are generally taken care within the available resources. However, in peri-urban areas, crossbred cattle or high-yielding buffaloes are used to meet the rising demand for milk and milk products in urban areas. The human-animal bonding here is determined by economics and welfare concerns are generally compromised. 1.7 Let us sum up. In this unit you were introduced to the meaning and purpose of farm and dairy animals, contribution of dairy animals to the national economy, major differences between different dairy production systems, general and specific, animal welfare issues associated with them. India's rank is E in farm animal welfare within 7-letter bands, ranging from A, the highest welfare, to G, the lowest welfare, in the ranking of Animal Protection Index. Dairy animals are the animals bred for the ability to produce large quantities of milk, from which dairy products are made. Dairy production systems are defined as all commercial production systems, where the purpose of the operation includes some or all of the breeding, rearing and management of dairy animals intended for production of milk. Among the three production systems, the semi-intensive system is more welfare-friendly for dairy animals, followed by the extensive system. In the intensive production systems, the animals are fully dependent on external inputs and 5 freedoms of optimum animal welfare are compromised. The dairy animal welfare in the 3 production systems fall into 3 main areas, viz. Biological functioning, naturalness and feelings and emotions. In the next unit, you will be introduced to specific animal welfare issues in dairy animals. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.